and welcome to Ask an NHD Alum. My name is Wendy Rex Atzet. I'm the state coordinator for the National History Day program in Utah. And I'm really excited to welcome an NHD alum who's been doing History Day for over 4 years. This is her 5th year, and she's in 11th grade right now. Her name is Marie-Madeleine Christensen. Now, Madeline does exhibits every year, and she's been to nationals several times, and she's won some pretty outstanding awards for her work in the past, and we're really excited to have her here and share some of her insights and her wisdom about doing NHD with you guys. So give me just a second to switch the screen around, and we will turn it over to Madeline.
So, just like Wendy said, I'm Marie-Madeleine Christensen, and behind me is actually the exhibit I've done last year. I made it to nationals with this exhibit, and over the 4 exhibits I've done, I have made it to nationals 3 times, and one of those times I won a national award. The exhibit behind me is about Marie-Madeleine Fourcade. She was a spy master during occupied France, and it's just this amazing story of this woman who broke barriers, broke gender barriers by being herself and still achieving things in this very domesticated France, you would say. During the time of occupation, France was very limited on women's rights, and it's remarkable that Marie-Madeleine Fourcade led the largest spy ring in all of France, and she did it without becoming an honorary man. She did it by just being herself and using the power she had, and it really touched for me because I connected to the story, and it was just great, and I made it to nationals. So yeah, but that was my topic last year, and I've done, my first year was Daughters of Liberty, and my second year was Prohibition, and then I had my Ghost Starving one, and that was the one that won the national award, and that has really influenced my life from now. But yeah, so those are my projects.
Great. Well, I have a whole bunch of questions to ask you that have come in from students who are doing NHD probably for the first time this year. So you always work in the exhibit category, and I would like you to talk about what you love about doing exhibits and also what's really challenging about doing exhibits.
Yeah, I am a very artistic and kind of hands-on person. So for me, all the categories are great, and I feel like with every category, there's a person for it, and the person for exhibit is kind of someone who's artistic, hands-on, creative, and for me, the point of NHD is to bring history to life, and I need like something physical, something I can touch and feel in order for history to come alive for me. And a lot of my projects are kind of things that not many people hear about. They're kind of hidden stories of history. And for me, kind of making a physical thing and bringing it to real life really helps me feel like I brought the story to light more. For me, I always need something like a physical representation of my projects. So all my projects have had some sort of symbol in them, I guess. My Daughters of Liberty was kind of a giant dollhouse. Prohibition was a barrel keg. The one behind me, you can see the dress spinning. I did it because I wanted something physical to kind of show the story without needing words. And exhibits are like that. You just find a way to show it hands-on, make it become real for you. And exhibits are kind of a dual-edged sword when it comes to it, because you have a word limit and you have a size limit. And I would say at times I feel like the exhibits is the most restricted category. because 500 words goes really fast. 500 words is about maybe a page worth of words. And it goes fast, and you have a whole 6 foot by 3 foot by 3 foot and only 500 words. So advice I was given was comparing an exhibit to a sonnet. Sonnets, if you know poetry, have a lot of restrictions. You only have 14 lines, and if it's like Shakespearean, you have an iambic pentameter and a certain rhyme scheme and all these things. But Shakespeare is able to make hundreds of these, and they are like the highest things of literature. And so really, because of those restrictions, it was able to make the poem so much better. So you have to make your exhibit your own sonnet. I call my exhibits my Madeleine sonnet. You have to take advantage of those restrictions to showcase more of your ability and not just make this an essay on a board. You have to tell a story and like make poetry out of it. And so the restrictions can work in your favor when you showcase your ability, really. So exhibits are awesome.
I love how you think about the challenges of exhibits as, you know, not a barrier, but like a creative challenge. And it comes down to more about really thinking carefully about how you communicate that topic, not just through 500 words, but through the art form itself. That's a great insight. What's your number one tip for kids doing an NHD project?
There are too many, but the biggest thing I can never stress enough, and this is in school, this is in NHD, this is in college, your life. You have to have a thesis, and you have to, throughout your entire exhibit or whatever category you have, constantly be tying back to that thesis. It's a really hard skill to learn, but once you learn it, it is the most useful skill I have used in my school and testing and really in my life, is learning how to make an argument and prove it. And it's tricky, but like I said before, the 500 word limit, you really have to make those words count, and your words are not meant to be used as evidence. That's what your quotes are used for. That's what your photos are used for. You have to make every single word tie back to your thesis in some form or another. You can show information through your words, but the way you phrase it has to tie back to your thesis. And that's the biggest thing with projects, is you have to do that, and you have to, and this is only exhibits, but it can be applied to other categories. You have to make sure that it flows and there's connections throughout all of it. You have to connect it to the thesis and make sure everything connects and flows. So you can't just be the reader or watcher or whoever it is, all the information on a silver spoon. You have to kind of leave things a little open-ended to make connections everywhere. So not leave gaps, just like help things connect, and yeah, it makes it a story, it makes it a piece of history and shows complexity. It's not an essay on the wall.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I think some of what you're talking about is showing your analysis. Like, you have done all this research, you have looked at all these primary sources, you are the one who knows more about this than anybody else in the room, and then you present that in your words, and you show your own analysis while you're making that argument and connecting to the theme. Mm-hmm.
That's the hardest point to get on the rubric, in my opinion, is that analysis point. So
it's higher level thinking. It really is. And, you know, any student doing History Day is going to learn how to do analysis better, no matter if they've done History Day 2 or 3 times before, or this is their first time. It's just one of the things that you'll get the opportunity to work on through this program. So it's not something that should scare you, but it is, you know, this is not the same as writing a book report.
Definitely not.
Yeah. When you start a project every year, what's the first thing that you do? How do you get started?
Okay, so the first thing you need for a project is a topic. And topics can come from anywhere. Sometimes it can kind of come through inspiration of what the year's theme is. That's kind of how this year has been for me, and that was how my first year of NHD went. With this year in Ghost Army, it actually came through a family connection because my great grandfather was a member of the Ghost Army. And because of that, I got interested in the story, and I was able to actually become a family representative to go on a Ghost Army tour of Europe. And on that tour, I had the amazing opportunity to go to Marie-Madeleine Fourcade's home and interview her son. And that was 2 years ago, but I still was so interested in the topic. And with the year's theme of breaking barriers, I just felt like it clicked and it worked so well. And I was like, this is what I'm going to do. But topics can come from anywhere. Daughters of Liberty was just like, oh, standing up, taking a stand in history. I'm interested in women's suffrage. Maybe I'll do that. And my teacher said, no, try to get a little more specific. Women's suffrage is a bit too general of a topic, and that was just my teacher's viewpoint. And so because of that, I found inspiration to do Daughters of Liberty. So you have to start with that, and then you start with a book. For me, I always need to start with a book because normally it's a secondary source, but at the back of the book, there's a bibliography, and that's how I'm able to branch out and kind of learn what areas of historical knowledge affect my topic. And some people can do that with Wikipedia sites or something, just like a simple Google search, I guess. But I feel like there's no magic website with everything you need. You really have to kind of search and find the sources you need. There are, like, the bibliography of a book will give you a lot of sources and help you find the research, but you kind of have to do a research chain where you find a book in the bibliography and then you look at that book and read that one's bibliography, and you like continue to branch out. And another really good resource is just archives. So National Archives, Library of Congress, British Imperial Museum Archive, those kind of ones. It's not going to give you everything you need on a silver platter, but it will have the database you need to find things or find ideas of what to look for, I guess. Also, if it's a general topic or obscure topic, finding specific resources for specific stories. So like Marie-Madeleine Fourcade, there was a story of an agent, Johnny Russo, who found the plans for the B-1, B-2 bombs. And I was just amazed by her story, and there wasn't much, but I wanted to learn more. So I searched up her name and looked in like libraries and things to try to find information. And one of my sources was an MI6 agent that worked with that Johnny Russo, and I was able to get this source that was a primary source from MI6 point of view and also a male point of view. So that kind of gave me something I wasn't necessarily expecting, but you have to kind of do that with your research. And then as you branch out, you eventually will have so much information you cannot fit in 500 words because you've read millions of words. And I start by just drafting an exhibit and getting what information I want. And alongside that, I draft a thesis. My thesis will change a lot, but at least having an idea of what my argument will be helps me kind of pick resources and quotes and whatever. And then you just continue. I collect a lot of quotes for exhibits because exhibits you have to use a lot of quotes to help with your word count. And I'll find a lot of quotes and start narrowing that down. And then your words, I start drafting to fill in the gaps the quotes and pictures don't have, and also explain why I use that quote, basically. Because I'm not literally saying, this is why I use this quote. You just say, like, you refer to the information in the quote and tie it back to your thesis. It's kind of tricky and it's a skill you learn, but you just kind of learn to just basically touch base on the information and immediately tie it back to your thesis and make your argument more powerful. So that's kind of my process, and it changes because every competition is a little different, and I will tear down my project and start again. My research will be the same, but I need to edit things down, and some things can stay up, but it's just different things. And Ghost Army, actually, 3 days before I was going to drive out to DC, I had kind of a consultation with a friend of mine, and the light bulb went on with how to do exhibits for me. And this was after 3 years of doing exhibits. And I tore it down, and 3 days before I was leaving, I had only sticky notes and sticky notes and index cards on my project. And I was able to put it all together, and it was a beautiful project, but Ghost Army was hard. And then because I learned that, Marie-Madeleine Fourcade was a lot easier for me. I didn't have to change as much. I kind of knew what to do at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of my process to do this.
Yeah, I mean, you're touching on a lot of really important process questions here about just planning on, yes, I will be revising this. I know that my first attempt is not going to be, what I'm going to end with. And revision is really part of your process. I love that you start with a thesis statement knowing that you are going to continually revise it as you get more information, as your analysis kind of shapes your thinking, and that thesis statement evolves as your understanding does. And let me ask you something really concrete about revising exhibits, because a lot of people are, if they're going to build a physical exhibit, and this year you have the option to build something or to create something that's digital. If you're building an exhibit and you may have to pull stuff off, move it around, reprint and put up something different, what do you use to fasten things onto your structure, like your board?
Yeah, most of the time it's glue dots, or we use duct tape a lot too. It kind of depends on what material you're using. With my Ghost Army one, I was kind of using like a chalkboard type of material, and the glue dots would really stick to it, so we used more of like duct tape. It would come off easier. And then with nationals, I normally will use hot glue at that point because there's no more revisions after nationals. But yeah, you have to kind of definitely be aware of that. I mat my things. It makes it look professional, and I'm a perfectionist. But you want to try to make sure your matting looks good, but we sometimes use, I sometimes use foam backing, and we'll make sure I'm mounted very well on that, but the foam itself will have duct tape or something to come off easy. Sometimes I'll reprint and just cover the old mounting and just top on top of it, so I don't have to use more paper. I don't know, just stuff like that. You learn. Sometimes it doesn't come off easy, but you just have to be aware, I guess, and it's good to keep in mind that and be fluid about your methods. I try to make sure my exhibits can come apart easy, because if I need to drive to nationals, I don't want another dollhouse where my dollhouse wouldn't come apart and we just had to take the giant van and trek it over there. And if you want to ship your exhibit, you have to be aware of that too. And that's, with this year it's different because at nationals, is it not virtual this year?
We don't know yet. They will be deciding later in the year. Hopefully, I mean, we should know by January what nationals is going to do. I know they're waiting to hear what the university, their venue, usually the venues are one of the big deciding factors. And so they're waiting on that.
So that's something you really have to be aware of with your exhibit. When last year turned virtual, I was able to rearrange my formatting a lot. It was nice but bad in some ways because I don't have to have actual people looking at it. I can take it apart and take the pictures as good as I want to. So my formatting didn't have to be aware of the dress in the middle that would cover up words. But if I was actually having an in-person thing, I have to be aware that this thing's gonna not only be 6 feet tall, but 3 feet taller because it's on the table. So things on the top, it's not gonna be read easily, so you either have to use a bigger font or less words. And things, if you're covering up things, you have to be aware and move them around so that at least if a person kind of tilts their angle, they can see it better. So you have to be aware of a lot of those things, but it just goes.
Terrific advice for kids who haven't really thought through or haven't done an exhibit before, especially one that is this large. So, well, I have one last question for you, and it's share with us what's your favorite thing about doing NHD and what words of encouragement do you have for kids who have never done it before?
NHD is the best. I love a lot of different things about it, but I think my favorite thing about NHD is just how much it's changed me. I never thought in a million years that a history project would be part of my identity, but it's really become part of who I am, and it's also taught me a lot of skills that I love using, and made me more mature and more sophisticated with like my writing and my work ethic. This has taught me to work hard, but I love going to the competitions and presenting my project. I love being a torchbearer for the stories. All my projects have become a part of my identity because I feel like I'm carrying their story and I've become a part of their story through my projects. But especially with my Ghost Army project, I have actually been trying to lobby Congress to get a Congressional Gold Medal for the men of the Ghost Army, including my great-grandfather. And I've interviewed, I think the number was 9 veterans, and I've met with them and I've adopted 9 more grandparents. So they've just become a part of who I am, and I love bringing their story to life and feeling the sense of accomplishment, and it's helped me become better in my life, I guess, because of what I've done with NHD. It's opened doors and opportunities for me. I already said I lobbied Congress, and I actually have an internship this year with a congressman, and I won the National World War II History Award, and that has helped me be able to reach out to more people. And last year I won the Billy Michael Leadership Award, and it's not about what you're winning though, because really nationals, it's so hard to win because state has very different standards than nationals, and you just learned to see what you need to do to change it. But it's just, yeah, it's not about winning, it's about learning your potential and being able to achieve that potential. Students don't know what they're possible of until they've done something like this that's really pushed your limits, and you do something that college students are doing or adults are doing, and it puts you above the rest of your peers on your identity and your skill set and just kind of like your preparedness for life. So yeah, I love NHD. Everyone should do it. Everyone needs to do it. So
awesome. Okay, thank you so much, Madeline. We loved hearing from you, and we'll sign off now.